Welcome back to the Acro Lab. My name's Tim, and this is episode 8. It's been a while. I haven't put an episode up in a couple of weeks. I've been on Easter holidays with my family and also dealing with some challenges with the tank and trying to work through those and get to some kind of a solution before I post up this next episode here. Look, I had a bit of a stumble on the path to recovery. I noticed probably about 2 weeks ago, some of the colours that were emerging in the corals started to fade again. And it was pretty disheartening because I felt like we'd set our goals, we had our practices in place, we were dialing in the things we needed to dial in, and it felt like we were getting back to a place where the system was happy and things were chugging along. But yeah, the colours started fading a couple of weeks ago. Things paled out, and then in the last week I started losing a couple of pieces again as well, which was heartbreaking. And I had an ICP sent off about a week ago. I got those results a couple of days ago, and look, I'd been chasing recovery maybe a little bit too quickly, got a little bit excited about the colours that were returning in the corals, and in last month's DIY trace dosing batch, I did up my stock solutions, and there were a couple of elements that were trending down or just a little bit depleted. I thought I'd bump that up and try and get back up to the set point, but I went a bit heavy-handed, and I had got the ICP results back, which I'll share with you in a sec. And yeah, look, not a good situation. I overdid it and paid the price. Look, I've lost a couple of pieces, but it kind of re-emphasizes a point I've been trying to make all along here with these episodes, which is if you're going to push the boundaries with your water chemistry in terms of doing up your own major element dosing and doing your own trace dosing, you have to supplement that with regular and routine ICP testing. You need that feedback loop so that if you err in your judgment, or you make a calculation error, or you overdo it like I did last month, you can quickly get those results back and make the correction. I got some good advice from my LFS. So my local fish shop is called the Coral Shop in Burleigh Heads. The team in there are amazing, and I had a really good chat with Mike and Ryrie there the other day. And they really steered me towards a good set of short-term goals to get the system back on its feet. And one of those was to do a 50% water change. So I did that 50% water change on Saturday, Friday, so 2 days ago, and noticed an immediate effect. Like, I was weird. I was expecting not much to really happen after that water change, but the corals looked a lot happier when I'd done that water change. So that kind of signaled that there was something in the water. It wasn't likely to be in the bacteria or something like that, or something going on with a pest or anything like that. It was in the water, and I did that water change. Things looked good. And then the very next day, I got my ICP results back, and look, I'll share the three elements that got out of control now, and we'll have a look at these. Okay, so the first element that went a bit off the Richter here is fluoride. You can see from the successive tests between moving house in December of 2025, January 2026 was looking okay, but then in February, March, I was getting depletion there, and the levels were plunging, and I looked at those successive 2 weeks apart tests in March there and thought, look, I really need to correct here. and I went a bit heavy-handed on the April stock solution for this element here. And look, I overdid it. But I look at this and go, well, look, the trend was significantly down, and so I just overcorrected. So look, for this element, I can live with the judgment on it. I've learned a good lesson about how sensitive my system is to fluoride. And now I know what dose rate will really set it off. So a bit of a lesson learned on fluoride, but I'm not kicking myself. I don't think the error was in the judgment on this one. Iodine, I am kicking myself a bit. So we can see there, the test in November last year was looking pretty good. It was in between the set points. I moved house and, iodine dropped through the roof, through the floor, sorry, and, bottomed out at like 10 ppb. And then, the tests in March were positive. I'd increased the dose rate successively in February and March, and the trend was looking good. And in my mind, I was going to bump up the April dosage rate and sort of aim to get up around 60, 70 ppb. But look, I overshot the mark. And similar to fluoride, lessons have been learnt on this one. And look, I know how much I've learned a good lesson on consumption rate in the tank for this element versus the dose rate. So feeling pretty good about this one in terms of judgment, that is. This one is just stupid. Like, this is a bad read from me. Lithium, you can see that, those successive tests in March that I've already got above the set point. So, I don't know what I was thinking. Like, I think I just overlooked this because I look at this graph now and my instinct is, all right, cut the dose rate back for April. There's no need to go heavy-handed on this. And I did, and I just overshot it massively up to around close to 280 ppb. So, I'm about 35% above the set point there, which is just horrible. So anyway, so those are the three elements that I cooked in April. So lithium, iodine, and fluoride. The rest of my ICP looked really good. Really pleased with how the other elements are chugging along. But yeah, definitely disappointed with those three elements. What can you do though? Look, at the end of the day, I am pushing boundaries. I know that. I'm not putting this channel up to recommend this as a reefing practice for anyone. My goal here is to really try and get the best growth, colour and vibrance out of these Acropora I can possibly achieve. I don't have a scaped tank. I've set everything up in a kind of laboratory style frag tank approach because my goal here is to just get the best out of these corals that I can possibly get. And yeah, I pushed the boundaries this past month, and lessons have been learned, and it just reinforces golden rule number one in reef keeping, which is be patient. Things take time. You don't have to aggressively push the dosing rates to get an outcome. Like, in my mind, I was like getting excited about the colours. I wanted to see more. And that instinct is great. Don't get me wrong. I probably do the same again, but yeah, it's part of this whole adaptive management approach to reefing, which is we're just going to continue to monitor. We're going to continue to learn. Massive lessons have been learnt on this. Am I going to back away from this methodology? Absolutely not. Like, I'm on a path here that satisfies my curiosity and the itch I have in this hobby. Everyone comes into this hobby with a different entry point. Some people love the equipment. Some people love the fish. Some people love the scaped underwater reef. I'm just obsessed with how aquaporin corals can grow and look. And that, for me, the entry point is around water chemistry. That's my background. That's what I've studied and done my research in. And so, yeah, sometimes you're going to hit stumbles. And part of the ethos of this channel is to be completely transparent. Look, it would have been really easy for me to just brush this under the rug. It's a little bit humbling to come into this environment and share these mistakes with you, my 30 or 40 or 50 subscribers. I'm stoked that people are even watching this. Thank you for coming along on this journey. But look, I'm not about that. I want to be really transparent in what I'm doing here. And I feel like knowledge sharing is the cornerstone of successful reefing. And so I'm sharing this openly. And yeah, if you've had similar experiences, I'd love to hear it in the comments. And just to finish the episode off, I'm just going to do a little video footage from the end of the 50% water change I did a couple of days ago. So you'll see the corals at their worst. And forgive some of the turbidity in the water. I took the opportunity while I was doing the 50% water change to do a bit of an algae scrub off the back wall. So there's a little bit of sediment in the water, but I guess I'm sharing this just to show you where things got to. And yeah, we'll complete the episode there. So yeah, thanks for coming and sitting through episode 8. Sorry, it's been a little while between episodes. Upcoming episodes, I'm going to do another taxonomy episode soon on the Robusta species group. That's coming up. And now that the corals are looking pretty good again, we might do our video check-in in the coming week or two as well, just to show that how the system's recovering there. So anyway, yeah, thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, may your reef thrive. So I'm just going to show you some footage with, at the end of the 50% water change. So the water level's pretty low in the tank, and as I said, it's a little bit turbid, but bear with me. So we can immediately see one of the acros I lost right there at the top of the screen. A lot of polyps pretty much absent now, not much extension at all. Some of the colours that we were really pleased to see in our video update a few weeks ago pretty much paled out in a lot of these pieces. Cherry bomb there really struggling. Fingers crossed for that fella. Yeah, just a lot of pale out here. Sort of some green colours there, but not much else really showing. It's not happy viewing. But sometimes that's reefing, that's why we monitor, that's why we test, is to pick up when the tank's not happy and correct some of the things that we're not doing well. So anyway, I share that footage in the sake of transparency, and yeah, I'll see you on the next episode.